Hello YouTube, this is a video about an arcade machine I've built. It's quite a long video, so if you're only interested in certain parts, check the description and skip to the bit that you're more interested in. So looking around at others, I saw quite a few machines, but none really had everything I wanted all in one. So I decided this had to have 2-player controls. Also, it had to have dual light guns. This was important, a bit of a wow factor. Had to have a trackball for the trackball arcade games and mouse games. Also needed to have the side buttons for the pinball games. I wanted a large screen, and also obviously had to look good as well. And have a lot of games, but not clutter, not repeated games. And to play the most demanding games on the emulators, had to be powered by a PC. So the first thing I did was went out and got myself a PC, an i5-3470, 8GB of RAM, an Nvidia GTX 770 I deemed would be good enough to play a lot of decent PC games and also handle all the emulators. 120GB SSD with Windows 10 Pro on it to boot up quickly, and a 4TB hard drive. From eBay I got a 27-inch bartop arcade MDF kit. I had to cut out holes for the trackball and the side panel buttons, they didn't come with it. I got a power inlet and some white T-moulding, this from Flat Out Arcades. Also from eBay I got a 45mm trackball, a key lock to lock the back door, fan grill, powered USB hub, a foot pedal for games like Time Crisis, a red and a blue Aimtrak light gun without recoil, Aimtrak holsters and Aimtrak stickers. From Amazon I got RGB LEDs for the marquee to light it up, an Acer 27-inch monitor, slim wireless keyboard, better USB cables for the Aimtrak guns, and an infrared remote for the PC. From Arcade World UK, these guys are brilliant, sell some really good arcade stuff. Industrious Lorenzo 2-player blue and red joystick button kit. This came with a USB Zinmo controller interface as well. 180 watt stereo amp with 2 speakers and an illuminated power button. From Rockstar Arcade I got all the artwork, the sticker bomb wrap for the control panel, bezel, top panel and front panel, the side panel artwork and the marquee artwork. From the local hardware store I got paint fixings, edging, door hinges, plexiglass for the screen and marquee, and lots of other boring stuff. So the first job was to clean the MDF and then paint all of it white. I then stuck the sticker bomb wrapping on the control panel, front panel and top panel. I then fitted the joysticks and the buttons and the trackball to the control panel. Had to cut the hole for the trackball myself as it didn't come with this already. I then stripped the PC, placed it all out and a rough idea of where it was going, fitted the front panel buttons. I then cut out the holes for the side panel buttons and then fitted the side panels to the base and a rear panel. Then grabbed an old TV, fitted all the components into the base and just checked that everything was working, and then fitted the control panel and tested all the buttons and the joysticks. And I screwed everything in place once I was happy with where it was all going. Next was the speaker panel. I then fitted the blue and the red side art to the side panels. Have to give my wife some credit here, she helped me with this bit, found it very tricky. Speakers fitted, T-moulding going on, and then the RGB lighting and plexi for the marquee. I then tested the lighting, make sure it came through the artwork, which it did, and fitted the trim around the outside. I then installed the plexiglass for the monitor, and then fitted the monitor and the Aimtrak light gun sensor. Next came the extension lead, amp, rear USB ports and power inlet. I then used some of the vinyl wrapping as the bezel around the outside of the monitor, cutting a gap for the light sensor. Bezel's all done, and then I started to fit the white trim around the outside. And as you can tell, first signs of hyperspin. I noticed there was some light coming through from the sides of the light sensor, so blocked that off with the black wrapping. Then fitted the fan to the rear door and the key lock. Then used the hinges to fit the rear door to the back panel. Finishing touches, and I cut down a speaker port to use as the surround for the trackball, and then changed the USB cables on the Aimtrak Lightguns for a braided type, and then fitted the stickers to each Aimtrak. That's the hard work done. Let's look at it in action.
Hi guys, so while the Hyperspin intro video is playing, just a couple of things about how it works. So I've got Windows 10 Pro, Hyperspin obviously. I've also used Rocket Launcher and Xpadder, which has mapped all the input devices to keyboard inputs, so that it just works a lot better basically. A lot of Hyperspin especially prefers keyboard inputs rather than game controller inputs. So we've got that on there. There's also, before this actually starts up, there's a batch file that I wrote which will remove each input device and then reinstall it again, and then set each input device a specific ID, because Windows has a problem where when a computer is restarted, all of the input devices, the numbers of them all get jumbled up. So if you're playing a certain system and using an emulator, and it's programmed to use joystick 1 and 2, if the computer restarts, when it restarts, 1 and 2 might not be in the same position. So this makes sure that before the arcade machine, Hyperspin is loaded, all the input devices are in the correct order and set in the correct position. So that's that. This is Hyperspin. This is the machine. It's taken me about a year to build this, and probably tell I'm quite proud of it. So let's get into it. So first system we've got here, what we got? Arcade, another arcade emulator. It's basically main games that use vector games. So there you go. You've got Asteroids. There's loads in here. They're all set up. These have actually all got themes as well. Not all the games on here have themes, but they've all got artwork. There's also if I just turn the volume up, hold this button, use the mouse to turn it right up. When you go into the systems, there's a little coin drop. So each system has its own sound clip before it plays. So if we go through here, let's just go for the classic Asteroids. Middle button there starts it up. This button will go back. You can also browse favourites and genres as well with those two buttons. So there you go. So there's two buttons down the bottom here, start and select, or coin input. So I've input a couple of coins, push start, we can then play Asteroids. Now you probably notice I'm not very good at a lot of these games. I've not played a lot of them, but it's good fun nevertheless. So that's Asteroids. As you can see, there you go. So if I hold these two buttons together, comes up with the game over screen, back to the game browser. So a lot of you will be familiar with Hyperspin anyway, so I won't bore you with how Hyperspin works, but I'll just show you my particular setup. So there we go, we've got loads of games in here. This is just one system. There are about 104 different systems on this machine. If we go back, so American laser games, a lot of these were they're all gun games, so I'm going to go through the gun games at the end. So we'll skip the gun games for now. Amstrad CPC, so we can go into that. Obviously it's a keyboard system, so you will need a keyboard to play a lot of these. However, Xpadder I have set it up so it's mapped a lot of the joystick buttons to keyboard presses as well. So most common ones like space, return, etc. So again, you can see in here there's just loads, and we can skip the different letters. So we can go straight to P, and it will take us straight. There you go, Pac-Man. It just skips straight through, and there's hundreds and hundreds of Amstrad games. GX4000, it's got Apple II, Atari 8-bit, 2600. So any of these games we got here, just turn it up a little bit. So if we go to display air raid, fade screens all set up through Rocket Launcher with the loading progress bar. So here we go. So on this one you can see we've got a bezel, and we've also got like a filter with scan lines just to make it a little bit more authentic. So you can start this. Here we go. Crazy Atari. It's real old school stuff. One day I'll get round to playing all these. So again, push those two buttons, it will take you back. Right. So let's go back again. Sorry, 5200, 7800, Jaguar again. Love this sound. Sound of Jaguar. Loads of the Jaguar games here. They've all got artwork. These have got cartridges and little video clips as well. Come back out of that. We've got Lynx, Atari ST, Astra K, Wonder Swan Color, Wonder Swan. All these so far, they've got every single game released, I believe. It's taken me so long to get them all, get all the artwork done. What else we got on here? Commodore 64. There's loads of Commodore 64 games as well, and I think they've all pretty much got artwork, and there's even the cassette artwork there. So yeah, we could play. So for instance, one of my favourites, Impossible Mission. So we can start that up, and you get this little screen. One of the original Commodore 64 startup screens. So then you get the tape loading screen as well. Eventually it loads, hopefully. There we go. So X-Pad has mapped a lot of these buttons, so I think start should be space. There you go. So that the X-Pad loads all the profiles for each system when you select each one. We also have a mouse cursor available for this system because some mouse inputs will be needed if we need to save games or whatever. We can open up the emulator window. So again, there we go, we can go into this. So here we would need a keyboard. I'll keep a little trusty keyboard under here. So high score trainers, so we just want high score, reset, and it will take us into the game. There we go. All of these systems as well, or the majority of them, if I hold this button, push that button, it takes us into a pause menu, which is built around with Rocket Launcher. So now I can go through these different menus inside pause. So it actually pauses the game, and we can go into settings. Well, that is just to lock the game. If you wanted to lock any of the games, we can arrange the controllers in a different order. Look at the artwork for the system or the game. Same with the videos. We can go into the sound as well. Turn the sound up or down. And it will also, yeah, as I said, pauses the game as well. So we can come out of this, just push the same button again. I have to come back out first, there we go. Okay, and then it takes us back to the game. Which one of these buttons, which one of these is that one? Ah, no, you have to go to off, I think. There we go, and then we're into the game, Possible Mission. So that's that, come out of that. So that's the keyboard system, so we'll come out of that. Amiga, probably one of my favourite retro systems. I absolutely love the Amiga. There's hundreds and hundreds of games on here. Still going down, still in the A's. Yeah, still in the A's. There we go. So again, you can skip the different letters. So if we show you how the trackball works, so it also works for mouse games as well. So we could go to one of my favourite mouse games for the Amiga, classic Cannon Fodder. So there we go. loading up. So we've got 3 buttons here: left click, middle click, right click, and the trackball's obviously for the mouse movement. So all of the Amiga games are HD load, so they're basically a virtual hard drive for the Amiga. So all the games load up. I just don't know what version this is. This isn't the original version. Don't quite know what this is. But there you go. You can see the mouse working here. Shooting with the right mouse button. Okay, so they're all controllable with the trackball. Yeah, so it's basically a virtual hard drive for the Amiga, so they all load up really quick. There's no swapping the discs at all either, so that's really good. Exit out of that. Let's have a look. So yeah, I won't go through all these systems, it'll take all day, but Amiga CD32, Mega Duck, Daphne, everyone knows the classic Daphne. So, well, I say everyone knows, not everyone will know, but if you're into emulation you will. There's a classic Dragon's Lair, obviously. It's hard as nails, that game. I've got pinball, so this is future pinball, so this is pretty decent. So we start that up. And I think in here there's about 400 different pinball tables. So let's go for 300, the movie. It's one of the good ones. There are a few different pinball systems on here. Future pinball's pretty good. There's about 3 or 4 different pinball systems. There we go. Now it's got side buttons here for the flippers. So we'll insert coins and then push the start button. I've set this up so that this joystick is the hits the ball. Starts, what do you call it? Plunger. And then the side buttons here are the flippers. So you can nudge the table as well with this joystick. There are all these systems as well. You can save games on them, save states on them as well. Saves all your high scores. So kids love playing on it as well, and they're always trying to beat my high scores and stuff. Or I'm trying to beat their high scores most of the time, to be fair. So yeah, there's your pinball, one of the pinball systems. So we can come out of that. Hold those two together again. And come out. So yeah, there's hundreds in there. It's ridiculous. Vectrex, old Vectrex system. Gun games. Again, I'll show them at the end of the video. But there is dual Lightguns on this arcade machine, which is another reason why you have to make sure that your controls are all set up perfectly at the beginning, because if they're not, if this becomes player 1 or joystick input 1, it's going to mess up all your other emulators. So we'll come to that at the end. We've got homebrew main. I will have a look through a lot of that. It looks like there's a lot of main games that have just got some kind of comedy take or been changed slightly, so they look quite fun. So I'll have a look through them. Locomilita as well. Main. Now, main is one of the more famous emulators. It's just all the old arcade machines. There are hundreds on here, absolutely hundreds of them. But what I'll show you is how I've got it set up for 2 and 4 player. So I know for a fact that these 2 games, the first one is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2-player arcade system, so it's an exact copy of the original 2-player arcade cab, and that's a 4-player one. So with the 2-player one, we'll start that up. Again, nice loading screen. There we go, 2 players for this one. So we should be able to use both sets of controls here. Again, coin input, start, and 2 players start there. So, put some coins in. Start there, there we go. So we've got 2 player on the go. So Michelangelo, Raphael. There we go. So there we go, we got 1 player and 2 player. So this is a classic game. Spent loads of money in the arcades playing this. They all run quite well. Again, we've got a nice bezel and filter all set up perfectly to make it, just to give it a little bit of a real arcade feel. So come out of that. So what I do now is, for the 4-player, I have a couple of Xbox 360 controllers. So we'll turn them on. We'll go to the that one. That's the second one. That should be the 4-player version. So any game that is 4-player, you can use these 2 controls and the 2 Xbox controllers. Start this up. Again, insert some coins. So we've got, I think that's start on this. Start. So I think we'll start here. First. There we go. We just got to insert a coin. So an insert a coin on that one, insert a coin on that one. Yeah. And then we've got 4 players. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can get all 4 controllers working. So that's good fun. Got a few mates around. Bit of 4-player Turtles arcade version, and there's just loads on there. It's Tekken and everything. So you can set favourites, genres, browse by genre, and coming up here is just tells you what buttons do what, basically. I've changed them from the original Hyperspin ones. So what else have we got in television? Mugen, Odyssey 2, MS-DOS. There's loads of MS-DOS games on here, absolutely loads. Some of them will use the mouse, obviously. A lot of MS-DOS games use the mouse, but I mean there are hundreds and hundreds, there's thousands actually, loads of MS-DOS games. But where I'm going to get time to play all these, I don't know, but they're all on there. PC Engine, CD-ROM, PC Engine, PCFX, Super Graphics, TurboGrafx CD, sorry, TurboGrafx 16, Nintendo 64. So obviously with the Nintendo 64, you can't really use these controls. You have to use your controller, and that's what the little symbol on the system says. In other words, it means all the games in here you need a controller for. So I can browse now actually with the controller. So we can choose. Well, I can browse with this actually. So if I go to, let's say, Mario Kart 64, everyone's favourite. So these fade screens taking me ages to get an individual fade screen for each system, but a little animated, well not so animated at the moment, but animated little GIF there just to indicate it's loading. There we go. So there we go, load up. Again, you've got a nice bezel and a filter to give a real, that's what it looked like on my old TV, Nintendo 64. So again, if you have 4 of these connected, you could play 4-player game, but just 1-player game. Yeah, and it runs really well. Nintendo 64 games run really well. It's not even the most demanding system on here, I'd say. There's a Wii U system on here, which I think is probably one of the more demanding systems, which works quite well, which I'll show you in a little while. So there you go. Oh, I love that game. Anyway, let's come out of that. So N64, it's got every single N64 game ever released on here. There's loads of them. Come out of that. Nintendo arcade systems, Nintendo DS, my daughter's favourite system. Go into there, plays a little DS sound. There's loads on here. She loves playing all the Pokemon games on there. So, but yeah, there's loads that you can use. So actually, we'll go into it. So let's just choose one, I don't know. Actually, this button on the side here, if I push that, does a random spin, and it will pick a game, and we'll use that. Whatever it chooses, eventually. Oh, look at that, Super Mario Brothers. Let's go into that. There we go. So, with the mouse here, you've got a little, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little DS pen. So you can use the mouse to select on this screen as you would with a DS. And you've got your game screen up there, but you can also use this as well. So, yeah, it's got, you don't miss out because you haven't got the DS touchscreen. You can use the trackball, which is great. So we'll come out of that, and then the bezel for all the handhelds is all like this. So you get the little screen here, and the bezel all around, just to make, I think it makes it look a lot better. So there we go. That's the Nintendo DS. Come out of that. NES, loads of NES games in here again, all with a nice sort of theme and icons for all the games, video clips, cartridge, and all that. It's really good. Famicom, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, again Nintendo GameCube. There's every single Nintendo GameCube released on here. Again, you need the controller to play the games in this system. What else we got? Nintendo Super Famicom, Nintendo Super Game Boy, Virtual Boy. Don't know anyone who had that. I don't really know if it was actually any good. Everything's, I suppose I don't know. It's not like today's virtual reality anyway. Nintendo Wii. So on here I haven't got all the Nintendo Wii games. There's a few systems I haven't got all the games for. Mainly got the games on here that you can use a Wii controller sideways, so you can hold it as a gamepad. And again, you're using Xbox 360 controller for that. But it's also got games that are like gunslingers here. So that used the Wii controller like a gun. So instead of using Wii controllers, we can use our Aimtrak controllers for that. So yeah, there's not every game on here, but there's some Resident Evil games on here. So they're just set up for the Aimtrak Lightguns. So yeah, that's the Wii system. Wii U. So this works pretty well. You get a few frames per second problems now and again on a few of the games, but they're playable. So we'll start Mario Kart 8 here. And again, you will need a controller to play the Wii U games. There we go. So although it's quite a demanding emulator, it seems to be, it actually works quite well. Once we get in there eventually. There we go, pressing the wrong button. So Grand Prix. I found if I turned off, what's going on here? If I turn off, me. So yeah, if I turn off VSync for this emulator, it seems to work a lot better with VSync on. I get quite low frames per second, and it's really slow actually. So I've turned VSync off. You get a bit of screen tearing, but the gameplay is so much better. Here we go. I've never actually played this properly. I've only played this to test this system. So one day I will get around to playing this. It looks pretty good. If any of you know what it's like, let me know. But yeah, see the graphics are pretty good. Not bad really. It's good. Yeah, so that's the Wii U system. Seems to be running all right. So we'll come out of that. See what's next. Open Beats of Rage. That's quite a few good little games in there. So it's like the Beats of Rage style game, but a lot of different takes on it. I think there's a Mortal Kombat one, and Yeah, there's all sorts. Mega Sonic, Metal Gear. So yeah, let's go have some fun with that at some point. Microsoft Windows. So in here, there's a lot of older Windows games and quite a few newer ones as well. So not every system and every game in this system needs a controller, but the ones that do have the little controller icon next to it. So we've got some Angry Birds games here, which we use the trackball. There's loads. There's Grand Theft Auto's in here. House of the Dead 2 and 3, which is obviously for the Lightguns. That's a good game inside. Kids like that one. Yeah, there's loads in here. Witcher 1, 2 and 3. Warcraft, again we'll use the trackball. And there we go, so come out of there. The old Windows sounds, start up and shut down sounds. Pac-Man 3DO. Pinball Arcade, so there's more pinball systems. Pinball Effects, this is probably one of the best, probably the best pinball system. Really good. Oh, and Pinball FX 3, sorry. They're really good pinball systems. PopCap, so you've got Plants vs Zombies, are the old phone games and stuff. Not really interested in that system, but I probably will play it at some point. Neo Geo Pocket Color, Thomas Wave. A lot of people like the old Thomas Wave, Sega Naomi, good games. There's loads on there. Thomas Wave. What else we got? So Scum VM, there's not so many Scum VM games on here. Not as many well-known games purely because they're on the MS-DOS system. So I've just added ones that aren't on the MS-DOS system, I think. That's what I did. Specific point and clicks that weren't on there on the system. So there's Simon Sorcerer, The Lion, Wizard and the Wardrobe. Yeah, so that's that. Sega 32X, Sega Mega CD. I mean, they've got all these systems have got every single game released for them on there. So I could go through them all, but it would just take forever. There are Hook. There are just hundreds. They've all got really nice. It took ages to do this. Really nice themes and artwork for them all. Sega Dreamcast. Every single Sega Dreamcast game on here. Of course, you need to use the Xbox 360 controller for these, but they're all on there. Should we play one of these? Let's just have a quick go on one of these. What should we play? I don't know. I know. Let's go for Ready to Rumble Boxing. Start that up. So this goes quite slow when it's loading because the Dreamcast ROMs are all zipped, so it has to unzip them all before it loads them. So that's why this takes a little bit longer for the Dreamcast. Just saves on disk space, basically. Eventually gets there. There we go. It should be in there now. There we go, stick that. Again, nice bezel. So I think when I got to the Dreamcast and upwards, so it's PS2 and I didn't use any filters because you could basically play them on an LCD TV, LED TV or whatever, so it was I didn't think there was any need to put a filter on. So there we go, ready to rumble boxing. No game file found because I haven't played this one yet. There we go. Who should we go? Boris, knock him off. And find a woman. Michael Buffer. Legend. I'm not going to embarrass myself and lose here, so I'm probably going to just exit just before I get filled in. Oh, that's it. You've got to fill up here. Oh, come on. Oh. Yes, have it. Come on, let's get the rumble. Let's just get the rumble. There we go. go. Right, yeah, that's embarrassing. So let's quit that. Okay, so Dreamcast. Yeah, every single Dreamcast game. Game Gear, Sega Hikaru. So these are some of the original Sega arcade games. NASCAR racing. Planet Harriers. Don't know half of these, but I'm sure they're good. Brave Firefighters. I've tested this. This is with the guns as well. It's like a firefighting game. It's quite good. I'll get around to playing that at some point. Sega Master System. First time since I was about, I don't know, 10. I completed Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Absolutely rock solid. I don't know how anyone would do that. There's no save feature, so I don't know how anyone would complete that. I'm sure there are people out there that have, but I don't know. I personally would find it impossible to complete that game without using the save state feature. Because there was no original save game feature, and a lot of it's luck. You've got to play rock paper scissors with the bosses, which is crazy. But yeah, completed it the other day. Again, every single Master System game on there. Mega Drive, all the Mega Drive games. Sega Model 2. There's a load of good games inside there as well. A lot of these you need controllers for. House of the Dead. Play a bit of that later. Sega Model 3. Sega Naomi. There's a load of Sega Naomi games in here as well. Loads. And again, they've all got artwork and video clips. A lot of themes. Sega Ring Edge, Ring Wide. Yeah, they're good. A lot of some gun games on there as well, I think. Sega Saturn. Every single Sega Saturn game. A lot of these play quite well as well. Well, they all play well actually. All the ones I've tested anyway. I've put a lot of hard work into making sure the emulators work and all the controls work properly. Sega Triforce. So I think this is like a Sega Nintendo mix. I'm not quite sure, but there were some arcade machines. Sega. So Mario Kart. So I did, when I got these working, they were difficult to get working. I only managed to get 2 games working, I think. Or is it 3 games on here working? So that's all that's on there. Sinclair ZX Spectrum. One of my favourite games for the Spectrum was Cookie. What a game that was. I remember playing this. But obviously this is a keyboard system. I'll show you something quite clever on this. Where are we? Cookie, there we go. So I'll start that up. So obviously it's a keyboard system, but if you haven't got the keyboard out, or you only need to push a couple of buttons or whatever, you don't want to get the keyboard out, there is a way around it. So right here at the start even, we need to select Kempston joystick, because at the moment it's selected as keyboard. So if I push this side button here, you'll see a little virtual keyboard comes up. So we want to push 4, so I'm just going to click there, and it goes to 4, and then I just need to start the game, which is 0. So just push 0, get rid of the keyboard, and there we go. The game starts. So that's really handy. Great little feature. All linked to that side button there. I remember as a kid playing this game, rock solid again. I don't think I ever got past the second draw, I don't think. But at some stage I'm going to play this, I'm going to complete it like I should have when I was a kid. But anyway, yeah, that's Cookie, that's Spectrum. So we'll come out of that, go back again, Sony PlayStation, PS1, and in here there are, well, there's every single PlayStation game on there, every single one. They've all got video clips again, absolutely brilliant. PS2, there's not every single PS2 game on here, but there are the majority, well, all the most popular ones I would say, and a lot of my personal favourites are on here. So I don't know how many's on there. I think there's probably around 100 games on there, I think. PS2 games. Being DVDs, they take up a lot more room. PSP again, there's not every single PSP game on here, but there's a lot of the more popular ones on there. I think it's somewhere around 40, 50 PSP games. Minis, PSP Minis. Steam, so I could load up Steam now, and it opens in big picture mode, and then you use the controller to browse Steam, so I could add more games through Steam if I wanted to. Super Nintendo, Type X, Visual Pinball, Supervision, Action Max, that's a gun game. And that's it, that's back round to the start, so that's a lot of systems and a lot of games. So I can use the search feature as well. So if I open that up, we can either use the mouse to push the buttons, or you can use the joystick to search for, so let's say we wanted to search for Street Fighter. I'll just put Street in and then search. It then shows you all the systems that have matched that search criteria, and then there you go, Wild Streets, and then we've got Street Fighter on the Amstrad. Never played that. And there's Capcom systems that Street Fighter, so you can just go straight down into any of these. Street Fighter 2 on the Capcom 1. Start that up. Go straight in with this little Ryu animation there while it's loading. And we go, there's the original arcade Street Fighter 2. So I tried when I built this not to copy a lot of systems, because a lot of people will copy with Capcom classics, Konami classics, but they're all in the main system. So with these, I've done it for the Capcom, but you won't find a lot of copies, and they're basically just links to the game in a different system, so it makes it look like there's more games, but there's really not. Blanca, Honda. So yeah, again, 2 players straight in. So yeah, I'm not going to play against myself. In fact, it's probably the only way I'm likely to win, to be honest. So let's come out of that. Okay, so yeah, I'll just go through a couple of other things I've put on here myself. So tools I've just added as a system. Configure input. So as I was saying, how these are all set up with their specific inputs. I've added that little program that I wrote, a little batch file. I can run it from here, so I can set them up again once if for any reason they didn't work properly once I'd set them up, which I don't know why, but it's just there. I can actually open a Google browser from here as well, so I can browse Google. There's just things I was playing around with, so there you go. There's Google, so we can get out of that. Let's close. Oh, I don't need the keyboard actually, I can just use the trackball, go straight to the top, and there we go, that should take us straight back. Screen projection, so I can actually project wirelessly this arcade machine onto me 55-inch TV behind me. So we could play 4-player, 2 people could sit here, 2 people could look at that screen, so that's quite handy. View input ID, so this is where I was saying you're looking basically. So I'll show you, so it's basically just going to show me what devices are connected in what order, and I can tell by looking at these numbers that they're in the correct order, so I know everything's going to work properly with all the emulators. And that's that. And then finally we've got the game over system where I can sleep the machine, restart the machine, or shut down the machine, exit to the OS, and that's that. So what I normally do is sleep it, and then all your IDs for all your inputs stay the same. If I restart it, they can all get jumbled up, so when I'm not using it, I'll just sleep it, all goes off, and then to start it up again, just push the center button and it all comes back on. So that's that. What I'll do now is I will give it one last spin, see where we land, but I'll do the light gun games now. I'll show you how they work. Okay, bit of light gun gaming. Just a couple of things before we get into it. These Aimtrak light guns, I've replaced the USB cable on them because the one that came with it is not very good cable. It doesn't last very long. It's some rubbery, it all gets stuck together. This is a braided cable, just bought off Amazon, just replaced it, soldered it inside. It's a much better cable, it's more lightweight, and it doesn't get tangled up half as much. These aren't the recoil version, just for the simple fact mainly the recoil's not that great anyway, and also you have to have a bigger cable, or 2 cables coming out, one for the power, for the solenoid for the recoil, so I didn't bother with that. They have got stickers on, time process sticker on the blue gun, and a House of Dead sticker on the red gun, which I think is pretty cool. I had a friend make that up for me. So we'll get into the gun games. Okay, so we go straight to Time Crisis. Because what I have for Time Crisis is I have a pedal. So this pedal here is linked to the Player One USB controller. This foot pedal, and this will work exactly the same as the foot pedal did for the original game. So let's go straighten and play that. Put the foot pedal down here. Now you have to be careful there's no sunlight in the room when you're playing with these Aimtrak guns, because the sunlight affects with the IR signal. So we've got our sensor bar just above there, I don't know if you can see it.
There's been a kidnapping. It's Rachel, the daughter of the president.
Oh no, better save her then. Here we go. So, story game. My pedal down here.
Action!
Love this game in the arcades. Spent all my pocket money playing this. Whoa! There you go, see the foot pedal working. There are buttons on the gun that I can use as well that as a pedal, but I prefer using the pedal. Makes it more like the original. So yeah, that's Time Crisis. You can see it works quite well. Works very well. It's surprisingly quite accurate, really. Okay, so look at that. Let's get into some two-player light gun games. So let's go for House of the Dead. We go to H. House of the Dead. Here we go. Second light gun. There's the House of the Dead sticker on that. Okay. So we're going to need to insert coins. You see this is on the Sega Model 2 system now. So the light gun system just loads the games from each system that have got light gun set up for light guns basically. Okay, so insert a couple of coins. Player 1, player 2. There we go. So player 1 start, player 2 start. Here we go. Oh no. Shoot off screen to reload. Yeah, get on with it. Here we go. Never say that though. Again, this is another one I spent far too much money and time playing as a kid. And never really got very far on it, I don't think. But I can now on this. Because I can cheat and it doesn't cost me anything. So yeah, there's your two-player House of the Dead. Come out of that. There we go, there's your light gun games. There's loads on here as well. I think there's over 200 light gun games. A lot of them are a single player, but there are some other two-player light gun games as well. Jurassic Park, The Lost World. I could go through and show them all, but it would take forever. Here you can see there's loads. So what I could show you actually is so this is a Nintendo Wii, this is Nerf. So this is a Nintendo Wii, but instead of using the Wii remotes, we're going to use, we'll just play one player. We'll just use, we're going to use the Aimtrak light gun instead. Here we go. So it's just the sensor bars working exactly the same. It's loud as the Wii remote would. So there we go. I can remember how it works because the buttons on the side of certain buttons as well. There we go. Oh, this is set up to player 2 for some reason. Let's see if that works. Go 3 player. There we go. I don't know, blocks. Yeah. Blocks to do. Okay. Oh, choose your Nerf gun.
Starting ASV. A masterful work of art.
Okay. Yeah, the graphics are really good on the really good. They're better than a lot of the arcade games, but that is
Use your blaster
the tracking is really pretty good for that.
Gold blocks. Act quickly.
didn't listen to what I was supposed to do, so I have no idea. Anyway, you can see it working. Now it's gone. There you go. So that's the Wii light gun games. There's loads, absolutely loads on there. So there we go. And there's Starsky and Hutch that actually uses one person on the gun, one person on the joystick. So that's good fun as well. So there we go. That's the arcade machine pretty much. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.